If you were lucky enough to watch the Tekken 10v10 at Combo Breaker, you will have experienced one of this genre's rarest and hypest moments.
Oh my god! No! Oh my god! What just happened? Oh my god!
The mechanics of this situation have changed a lot over the years, and in my eyes it's not really been for the better, so let's talk about it. The last round double KO. Done by two characters hitting each other simultaneously and both being knocked out, or there being a timeout where both players have the exact same amount of health left. To say this is an uncommon occurrence is an understatement. You can play fighting games for a decade and still only count the number of double KOs you've experienced on one hand. This is why when it happens you can guarantee the room is going to explode. When I say it's changed too much, what I'm talking about isn't actually the way in which it happens, but the ramifications of it. Look at the round count here, it's 1 each. This is the final round, then they double KO. In Tekken 7, it counts as both players winning, leading to a draw, meaning they have to start the match again. But it hasn't always been like this, so let's do that thing I do every video and roll back to Street Fighter 2. Here, and in earlier Street Fighter games, when you double KO, no one gets a point. You instead play another final round. We're going to get to my opinions on this later in the video, but for now, let me explain a huge downside to this methodology. However, it's not a downside for the players, it's a downside for the arcade owner. Capcom want you to be putting coins into the machine, and that requires someone to win or lose. With this way of dealing with double KOs though, if you're playing with a friend, no one has to lose. Fight down to the last hit, then orchestrate a double KO, and suddenly you've got yourself a free round to play, and in this game you can do that indefinitely. It's a problem that needed to be fixed in the arcade era, and that's why we've ended up with the system that we see today. But sadly we're not in the arcade era anymore, so the line of logic that once applied isn't really relevant. We didn't immediately land on this current style of double KO, where essentially both players lose. Some games did, but others experimented with alternatives or halfway houses. In this period of time there were some quite peculiar ideas floating around, which were very, let's say, creative. The most commonly known alternative is Street Fighter 3's judgment system. After a double KO occurs, 3 characters will appear on the screen and pick a winner. Generally, it's understood that that winner is based on the player's grade that's displayed at the end of the match, which for obvious reasons is entirely uncompetitive. But it did fix the problem with the prior system because at least one player lost and had to put money into the cabinet. Another more extreme example is found in the game Dino Rex, which actually gives you another round, but that round is in an entirely different game, where instead of playing as the dinosaur, you're swapping to the trainer, who is a completely new character unselectable in normal play. They've literally built a game within the game that you might never see, which is a wild level of commitment to the bit. Smash Bros, although not an arcade title, famously has sudden death, where both players get their percent cranked up high, making basically any attack kill. If this doesn't quite speed up the game enough, eventually meteors will start blasting the stage. Once again, something completely ignored within competitive play, but for a casual audience is kinda sick. And now we're in the modern era, and a lot of fighting games are unified on their approach to dealing with last round KOs, so what's my problem with it? Well, tension, and not in a Guilty Gear sense. I'm going to be a bit abstract here, and if you've been following me for a while, that's not really my vibe, but let me try. The match I showed at the start of this video was amazing, there is no doubt about it. Anyone who says otherwise to you is lying. However, because there was a double KO, they had to play again, which is fine, more good ass Tekken, but there was a release of tension. Now in this case it was a pretty small release of tension. The commentators Spag and Tasty Steve, along with the fact it was a team tournament, kept pressure and hype high. But we've gone from this final hit moment where everyone is on the edge of their seat to a loading screen and then to a round 1. What was exciting was what just happened, not what is happening. First rounds are less consequential than the final one. It's an objective truth, and that's why I want games to return to how they used to be. A double KO simply results in another round. There are some problems with this idea though, and they aren't all just due to arcade owners not making enough cash. The main one is meter management. Some characters are built to entirely be meter dependent, and going into an unplanned 4th round with no bar because you spent it all can be a huge disadvantage. Now, the devs could either just simply empty or fill both players' bars for the sake of balance, but honestly this occurrence is so rare that it won't really have a huge impact on the game. Some games have already returned to a final round system like Guilty Gear Strive, and no one is complaining about that. You could be saying to yourself, this is great and all, but is it really that deep? Which is fair. But before you decide, I want you to watch this match of me trying to relearn Rose. I'll cut out the doom metal here and let you experience it how I did. This is Street Fighter Alpha's system. It's nothing complex, it just lets you play out another round and cuts out the music. But God, even this no consequence, low level online match had a palpable tension to it. As a spectator and as a player, I don't want the release of tension from a loading screen or another first round. This is a fighting game's version of an eclipse. You don't always get to experience it, but when you do, it should be mesmerizing and completely unforgettable.